Rashad Walters.
Yeah.
We got Seyblu. We got Hallea Jones. We got Winkle. And we got Ferraro. These are all very dear friends of mine. So I'm just going to give them the mic. They can introduce themselves a little bit and their relationship with the musical throat. And I'm going to stop talking now. Geez, put it on the hot seat as soon as I can have it.
They got their coat.
We can start at the other end. You can take your
I'm not literally hot. I still got to warm up a little bit. He's not in for the outdoors and stuff. I'm Rashad, or Ray, either one of the two. It's my usual greeting. In regards to, I don't know, I guess I've been a vocalist pretty much my whole entire life. Vocalist, MC, whatever. Part-time comedian. So apparently you can see. But not really. Maybe later. So yeah, I guess I've just been doing the thing for a while. I'm here every Tuesday as you guys see me. I mean, the lengthy musical background, all of that, whatever. No, I'm just here to answer whatever questions I can and get lengthy in any way I possibly can. All right.
Is this going to be long enough?
I hope so. I couldn't tell whether it should go behind or in front of me, so.
Like in the middle.
Alright, hi, I'm Seyblu, and I've known Jax for a while, so I'm honored to be here and share what I know, and hopefully that's helpful to somebody here.
Hi, my name is Hallea Jones, and I've known Jackson for about a few years through my brother. Some of you may know him as Austin Jones or August Jones. I was the little sister who got into music back again like 4 years ago and just fell in love with it when I found Fam Jam. Fam Jam absolutely changed everything I know about being a vocalist, about being a musician, and being a friend in an incredible community like so. And I am incredibly honored to be here today, and I'm so happy all of you are here today, so welcome.
Hi, my name is Forrest. I too have just been singing as long as I could remember in really casual ways at school, in plays. I was in a band for a number of years, and then since then I've just been singing casually in my house, in the shower, at Fam Jam. I love to do it, so yeah, looking forward to having a nice conversation about it.
I'm Nick. I grew up as more of an instrumentalist and then got into singing a little later in life and then stumped my way into being a singer in a band and did some touring, and now I do a lot in the studio world, so if anyone has questions about that stuff and just like writing and vocal production, there's that kind of stuff that I'm here for.
All right, awesome. Give it up. So before we begin, just going to kind of gauge the room. How many people raise their hand would consider themselves a singer? Right? How many people in the room have been like singing for a long time and have been like doing it for a long time? Okay, cool. So it's fairly mixed. So the first thing, welcome singers and non-singers alike. I'm going to ask a question, and then I'll put it to you guys, and then we'll just kind of open the floor to any questions that you may have. So the first thing I just want to ask is, what I hear from a lot of people is that, at least what I've seen from some people who don't have like a singing background, is that it can be a really scary thing to do, and like a really vulnerable thing to do, like sing and practice singing and practice like making mistakes and being a singer. So my first question would be like, what do you think about that, and what do you think are ways to kind of like approach singing either with or fighting that?
Yeah, I mean it's an easier answer, but it's harder to do, which is like disidentifying a little bit from your voice being you. Like instrumentalists have an easier time sort of detaching, because it's like I play this thing and there's this little bit of separation, but as soon as you start singing it, like it feels overly personal sometimes, and if someone doesn't resonate with your voice as much as you would have liked, it's like you take that as like an affront to yourself, and it can be it can just be really, really personal. But I think if there's a way you can separate, and then you can kind of like listen to your voice objectively and be like, what do I like about this? Like how you would listen to your piano playing and be like, how am I hitting the scale? Like how do I feel when I'm singing? How does it feel in my lungs? How does it feel in my enunciation? And listening to yourself doesn't have to be so vulnerable. But it is inherently the most vulnerable instrument, so you can't get away from some of that. But that was something I noticed sort of coming later to singing, was like, oh wow, this feels almost too personal. How do I step back? Anyone else wants to?
We're gonna do like all
We
of
could,
it, just like whoever
Yeah,
wants.
just pass it down if you all have anything you can input on that.
Yeah.
If you don't want to answer, you can pass it along.
Exactly what you said. It can be very exposing, I guess, when your voice is your instrument. You are your instrument, and a lot of times it can feel like, you know, you're showing a lot of yourself by sharing that. And so I guess, I don't know. I guess maybe like one strategy for softening that a bit would be wherever you have like a safe space to just be silly, sing along to your favorite music and just ham it up, so you can like really push the threshold of what it feels like to use your voice and to become familiar with your voice and to familiarize yourself with the feeling of releasing that energy, because it can be very cathartic to move energy through you, like through your vocal cords, like just somatically. That's an uprooting thing to do. So I think to just familiarize yourself with that voice and to hear your voice and to laugh with yourself at home, you know, when your roommates aren't home, or if you are blessed to have access to a car. That's what my sister does. She just sings really loud along to all her favorite music while she's driving. And I think just building like, I don't know, a relationship that's humorous and light and loving with your voice.
I'm gonna use this mic just because I have a lovely cold sore and I don't want to give it to any of you lovely people. Thank you very much, Michael. For me, it's a lot of trust and trial and error. I am not a trained vocalist, and I have learned a lot from watching videos of myself performing or hearing voice notes. Or one thing that I've really started doing a lot is self-producing. And you don't have to be good at producing in order to learn your voice on a DAW. And so I've found with that, I'm able to hear back what I'm giving and be able to learn how to morph my voice to work with different things. And what happens if I push this way? Okay, that doesn't work. Where can I find it in my body better? And so also YouTube. YouTube is just like the world's free university. And there's so many amazing things that you can learn online, and just by talking to people and just by really observing. As an actor, my whole world is observing, and I am constantly observing everyone up there, and there's so much to learn just by looking at it and just seeing, okay, what are they doing? What are they changing? How are they changing? And how can I change?
People have said some really helpful things so far, so if I'm going to say anything, I guess, different, what I've felt has helped me is once I've been able to kind of get over like this, feeling of like, oh my God, that's my voice feeling, that I create my own goals, and I try not to, because when you get up here and you see, oh my God, that person is amazing at runs, or oh my God, that person has like a belt that like, I wish I had that. It's like, just know what you are, make your own goals, and just focus on that. Like, we can't be something that we're not. And I think sometimes when we like look up to somebody who's a good singer, we think, I want that. But it's like, I don't think you actually want that. You just want the best version of whatever you have. So just focus on that.
Lean into your strengths.
Okay. I guess from my perspective, coming from someone who I guess used to have a lot of stage fright and that sort of thing, so breaking, I guess, through that, it took, I don't want to use the term disassociation, but I feel like that would be an appropriate term to use in this case. What I would say is you have to put your ego, or lack thereof in this case, depending on how you want to look at it, to the side. And you kind of have to, as I would like to put it, I guess the best words I could say is live in the moment instead of living in your body, and just kind of let it be what it is. There's no shame in it being what it is, and as long as you are happy and you're enjoying that moment and living it to the fullest, being on stage and, sharing your voice with people, then nobody can really get mad at that at the end of the day, right? That's totally fine. And there's also no shame in asking questions, if maybe you have a friend who you trust, and asking for a little bit of constructive criticism, that's okay too. And, to highlight some of the things that other people have said, find yourself a safe space and just belt it out. Do whatever the heck you want, wherever you feel safe. But being on stage, it's just share that with people. That's okay. Even if you're sharing uncomfortability, that is also okay in itself as well. So I guess that's my 2 cents on it.
Do you have any other questions? Yes.
Hi. So my question is, do you guys think that tone is something that you're born with, or something that's learned? So I'm thinking, you know how Lauryn Hill has very distinctive, it's like rich tone, and then that's very different from Anita Baker, and it's also very different from a Yeva or Jackson Steinwall or whatever. It's are there pieces of that you can learn? Are is everything just very what you're born with? I'm curious to hear what you think on that.
I think your tone is your signature, and I think it can always change. But I think there's a core value to who you are, that finding your voice is all about leaning into your tone in ways. And looking at videos from when I first started fam jamming compared to now, my tone's still the same, but my technical ability has changed. So it's when people were like, oh, I heard, I automatically knew it was you singing, because that's my tone. But it's very, it's changed over the years, and the technicality and my ability to use that tone. And I think that tone is something that you're born with, but it can definitely be worked on.
Yeah. I was just going to say that I think that I think everybody has a tone, and I think it's kind of, it is obviously unique to each person. It's your timbre is something you can't really change at the end of the day, but for me it's similar. I think my style has changed, which I think a lot of people will kind of get mixed up with tone and timbre, so they don't necessarily realize the difference or the similarity. But I think it's going with your strengths sort of thing. And also just embracing whatever that is. It's not something that, again, you want to look at somebody and be like, oh, I want that yubba, tone or whatever. It's yeah, don't we all? But also fuck that. You've got something special, whatever it is. So yeah, just live it up.
Real quick follow-up. What would you say is the difference between tone and style?
Yeah, I think style is very often genre based. There's a lot of different styles that go with the genre, and a tone is your inherent timbre. It is the, it's yeah.
Just to kind of add to that, I think it's kind of the difference between what you have versus what you do with it.
Yeah, well said.
I'm not sure that I have anything terribly different to say, but I think you can change your tone. I think you can mess around with that. Or I don't know. I guess if tone is the quality of your voice, maybe it's more style that you can play with, but you can drive your voice from different places, and I guess I'm thinking, he's not a singer, but of Kendrick Lamar and the way he uses character and the way he can manipulate his voice to bring out different qualities and lean into different areas of his voice. I think maybe different areas of your vocal range can have different qualities to them, and you can lean into that. I think my voice is something that I both discovered but also kind of tweaked over the years to like to I don't know, burrow into the areas that I really like. So I think you can change your tone. I think.
Like, you definitely can, and I think it's then just like important to ask why, so that you're not, because like you can, like when you hear like, especially like people in acting, like you'll see like Jamie Foxx on Jimmy Fallon, he'll just do a whole bunch of impressions, and like he'll sound like John Legend and then like whoever else, like Marvin Gaye, and like, so people can, and you can work on your tone, but if it's to sound like somebody else, like your body will feel so inauthentic. But if you're like more so trying to like, it's like you're filtering through all the possible tones to find the most you tone, or the best way of expressing what your tone is, because you can go through, like I remember going through such a spectrum of like kind of growing up and feeling like I just had like a boring voice, like I could hit notes but it was so boring, and then being like I want character, like that's so cool, and then I just sounded like just so extreme, like I was trying to put on this rasp, and I'm like I'll listen back to recordings like who the fuck is that, like come on. And so like, and then now I've kind of dialed it back and I'm finding my middle, but I think that's part of it. Like you can sound like anybody, but it's like why and what are you trying to find? I think that's what's important.
I spent a lot of years trying to sing like Taylor Swift, and then I realized that wasn't working for me. And this place, Fam Jam, made me break out of that. So, but I still have that like tone, that signature. I mean, it's just like our talking voices are all different. It's just like I think that's part of the vocal makeup of who we are and the way that our literal physical anatomy works. But yeah, you can always like change it up and play with tone. I feel like I'm like
be playful.
Have like a one-up on having this mic. I'm sorry. Another question. Yes, Jackson.
You know what? I know you.
It's less of a question, it's more curiosity about what your relationship is to your nerves, because and what that does to your breath, because your voice is your instrument, and I know that the moment that I get nervous, I lose it. I physically lose my breath, and then I find myself singing like from my head voice, and I can't get it back. And so I'm just curious if there's strategies or what your relationship is with nerves and breath. Just like that.
So the question is talking about dealing with nerves and breath and how to make sure not to lose your voice in those moments, right?
I've been performing for a very, very long time, and it was this thing where like I started out in classical and then I switched to jazz, and when I switched to jazz I just performed constantly, and that was like it was a great foundation for me to just like I never really had nerves performing until like a few years ago I started to I usually would play with my piano in front of me, and I was like, I actually want to dance with the mic so badly, and I started to do that, and I was like performing my originals more, and nerves got so strong like I had never experienced. So it took a lot of practice, and I think like a couple of things that have really helped, actually we were talking about this, is like creating your own little like tradition or routine before you sing. So like whatever you need to calm down, whatever makes you feel relaxed, can really, really help. At least for me, I need like some kind of grounding practice before I'm gonna sing or anything. And like even now, I actually have nerves and I'm finding it a little difficult to breathe. So I can totally relate. Yeah. Should we just like all take
Should
a
we
deep
all just
breath?
take a deep breath right now? Let's take 3 deep breaths. Okay?
Aim for 4.
Stuff like that really helps. But I have my own visualization and different things that I do now before I perform. I meditate, and I'm not going to tell you because it's a little embarrassing, but I have like one particular like thing that I do that is like a visualization. It's like a place I go, and if I just literally sit in the same spot and I close my eyes and I imagine that I'm in that place, I'm like, I'm fucking good. You know, I'm so good. And sometimes it can like feel like you're losing it. Take a second, you know? Like nobody's out here being like, ugh, she left the stage already. It's like, nah. And if anybody's judging you for that, that's on them. So like definitely being able to create your own space and reminding yourself before you go on stage to like give yourself a second is so important, among many other things, like warming up. I'm a huge advocate. Warm the fuck up. Because that's also it. It's like you get up there and you're cold and you're like, I can't. And then you're like, why can't it's not working? And then the more you freak out, it's not working. So just like grounding practices, breathing, and yeah, that's what I do.
I'd actually be curious to actually go to each one of you and talk about your favorite ways to warm up. Because I think everyone probably has a different way, or different voices might have ways that they like. I'm just curious.
Okay, yeah. Did anybody else want to answer that nerve question? I'm thinking about.
I was just going to say to Brad, like what we did, that's what I most commonly tell people here. They're like, I'm really nervous. And I go, take a breath. And they're like, what? Close your eyes. Take a breath. Because like anxiety and all that lives up here. When you breathe, it brings you here. This is where you want to be. It brings you back into your body. Gives you a focus on your breath. You're not focusing on this stuff. Now, granted, you might walk up there, then it might all unravel. And I do it here a lot too when I'm up on stage. There's a lot of energy floating around, and I get the whole audience to breathe like with us. And when you do, like you open your eyes and you're like, oh, like it's the same room, but it feels a little bigger, it feels a little cozier, everything's a little softer. So just bringing yourself back. So it's the irony of losing your breath. Half the time to get it back is to actually breathe.
And like you were saying, it's also to have like the courage to just take a pause. To take pause for yourself. And then like you just breathe through it. Right. That thing. The air within you, right? Okay.
It's okay to be on the Fam Jam stage for 15 seconds. Like that's something I really want to drill right now. You don't have to stay up there for longer than 15 seconds. If you like, I get up there sometimes and then the freaking drummer changes and the guitar people are changing and I'm like, I don't have anything anymore. I'm just gonna peace out, bye. Or like it's just something, it's just like not feeling there. And you can get off. You don't have to stay up there if you don't want to stay up there. And if you're not feeling it, get off and come back later. You know? Yeah, you should. Like if you aren't feeling it up there, get off. Like, no one is going to judge you for it. If they do, like you said, it is their problem. And you are going to be a better artist for that because then that's training you and conditioning you to respect where you are in that present moment. And that takes presence in itself. And that's the most important thing you can do is just be like, no, not feeling it. I'm not here right now.
Also, just say it out loud. It's the other thing.
Yeah.
Quickly, not to take away too much, but people go, I'm really nervous, and I go, say that. I go to a lot of open mics, and they're like, what do you mean? And I go, tell them that. And they get on stage, and they go, I'm really nervous right now.
And people will be like, yeah!
Everybody cheers, and it also takes it out, because when it's in here, it becomes an echo chamber. You're up here being like, oh, and it just, as everybody knows, it just builds and builds and builds.
And you're not the only one.
Let it out, it loses a lot of its power.
If I may just add to that, I think it's really good in a big Fam Jam environment, but not all environments.
Yeah, it's not always, but it's also, to me, it's transparency even when I perform shows.
Yeah.
I go, I don't feel great right now, but I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah.
And some people come up and go, I really needed to
And
do that.
and some people do really like that, but I think it's just to be like from my own perspective, I don't like sharing that when I'm performing. So it's dependent on the person, but yeah, for sure.
Why though? We'll get into that later.
A really good grounding practice for me, any single time I'm nervous, and if anybody else feels this way, feel free to share it too. Like my solar plexus will be going crazy, like because it kind of feels like your heart, and oftentimes it is. Like it's your heartbeat also being really fast, but like it comes from that lack of like space there and that lack of like breath. So a part of like what they're talking about in terms of like a tradition and a routine, putting just like, even if it's just like 10 seconds to just like take 10 deep breaths, or just like put your hand on your gut and breathe in like 10 times, will Absolute wonder.
In life in general.
Yeah.
Should we do the warm-up thing that Jackson is asking?
Before session.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna go to that question. So feel free to answer. I feel like a way that I like to both practice and also work on breath technique is, and the vocalist who was here last week doing a seminar said this as well. Wind players will practice long tones on their instruments. You can do that as well with your voice, and I really like chanting as a practice, just doing ohms, or whether or not that is a spiritual practice for you. For me it is, but Om is an amazing tone because it comes from the back of your throat and then into the front to the tip. So you can practice moving that breath through from many different places in your mouth, moving the tone from the back to the front and just breathing in. And just toning your voice that way. So that's one thing I like to do. It can also be very grounding. Okay.
Warm-ups, yeah. I would do a bunch of sort of the nuts and bolts things like lip trills and stuff, and trying to do the full range and up the major arpeggio and down the dominant, that's the best full range thing. And then I don't know, are vocal fries still not allowed in singer circles? Cause I would vocal fry for a warm up. Yeah, okay, it's because it's something about the way, at least it worked for me, but getting your chords resonating, doing the you sound insane. So make sure you go on a walk and do that. Just downstairs, everyone can just wonder what you're up to. Sorry.
I was gonna say vocal fry is good if you want a full chest sound.
Mm-hmm.
If you go vocal fry into singing, it's pretty much full chest.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's a little Sam Smith does that trick of frying into the
note. Or if you're warming up and you can't find that sound
Mm-hmm.
you can start with fry and go to it.
Okay. So we're allowed to fry. Am I?
If you do it,
The vocal police aren't out to get me. Some people have said they're you're destroying your voice, and I'm oh my god, I'm so sorry. But yeah, vocal fry helped me a lot. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's go. Okay. So it's dangerous.
I mean, to do it as much as Sam Smith does, probably. But to do it in a warm up, I would say why not?
Oh. So there is still contention in the community.
Everyone has their own thing, right?
There's a proper way to do it.
But then, sorry, just one of the I don't know if anyone sort of has issues with just multiple gigs in a row or touring and things like that. But it's wild to see how much taking care of your voice is just taking care of your body. And so I would go on tour and be why am I losing my voice? Oh, I'm sleeping 4 hours and drinking every night. And I'm it's my technique. And I'm no, come on, drink some water. And even I would watch just how I was speaking and making sure that if I had if I was doing a lot of gigging, to making sure that I wasn't speaking too much from my throat and trying to speak a little more sort of in the pharyngeal cavity or whatever you call this place, speaking lighter and things like that really helped.
Can I ask you a quick follow-up?
Me? Oh, okay.
What do you start doing when your support muscles start getting tired?
I may have been lucky that because I grew up playing saxophone, so maybe that wasn't. I don't know if anyone else has that one, because saxophone is all of those muscles. So.
This is not my information, but I really liked what the woman said last week about that opera singer who was she's warming up your voice is good, but you can sometimes tend to actually injure yourself or create more unnecessary strain by focusing too much on your voice. So focus as well on warming up your body. And she said this opera singer will not necessarily warm up her voice. She'll just do 50 crunches and 50 push-ups and then go sing a 4-hour opera. And I was I like that. But I don't know how it works because I didn't try.
I very strongly warn people about that. I would say ask a professional before you decide to just go vocal fry. That sounds very dangerous to me, but I also I know that some the guys for whatever Protest the Hero is a really heavy rock band, and they there are ways of screaming properly. I don't know how to do it because it hurts when I try, but I know there are ways to do it properly, so maybe there's a way to do that properly too. I guess like on the warm-up thing, I'm a big believer in tons of warm-ups. I can actually relate to the warming up too much thing. There have been times when I have been doing a lot of shows and I have warmed up like greatly before them and then done back to back, and then it's like I can tell that by the time I actually get to do the show, I'm already tired. That's not good. So there's a right and a wrong amount, I think, for each body, but you get to know that about yourself the more you do it, so it's kind of a trial and error thing, I think, too, in practice. But what I will say is there's a really great warm-up album on Spotify by a guy named Ken Burton. Highly, highly recommend. If anybody wants some easy warm-ups, the music is cheeseball, but it is so fun. You can snap along, and he'll get you doing like all the right things. Tells you where to place it, how to do it. Ken Burton on Spotify, the vocal warm-up album. Search it up. It is amazing. So literally, those were my top 5 most listened to songs on my Spotify Wrapped.
Following.
Because literally, I just listen to that shit like all the time. So the other thing, did you listen? They're so nice. Yeah, they're very like 80s cheesy, but. So that was my first thing, and then I was also just going to say, even if you feel like you don't have time or if you don't know what to do, just make like a 3-minute warm-up and you'll notice a difference. It's kind of down to the same thing of like taking a moment to just breathe before going on stage. I would recommend just doing some humming and some like small range warm-ups where you're like, okay, I don't need to do the whole like, wah! Like you don't need to do the whole big thing. You can just be like, and like do some singing, like something that I think we all get really freaked out by is by the time we reach the stage to start doing something and we haven't sang for like a week, we're like all shaky and shit. It's like if you just sing a little bit every day, then once you get to that point, it won't feel so foreign in your throat and your body. So like just singing a little bit all the time, softly. Don't be like out here doing Whitney Houston, like on a Thursday morning if you haven't sang since the weekend. It's like, but yeah, a little bit all the time.
For you?
Like for warm-ups?
Yeah, because you kind
Yeah.
of like, talked about.
Yeah, Ken. So I do the Ken Burton ones. Usually I've got it in my calendar every day. I'll be honest, I don't do it every day, but usually a few times a week I'll do it. I think to go through the whole album takes like an hour. But if you do, like 3 or 4 tracks, maybe 10 minutes, I think I usually do like between 20 and 40 minutes depending on how I feel. Because sometimes also if like I've been singing every single day, I do a 20-minute warm-up and I'm like, I'm good. But if it's been like weeks and I haven't been singing and it's like I do 40 minutes, I'm like, yeah, there I'm finally like getting into it.
You do that before shows?
I do it before every single show. I did it today. Before speaking.
A related question to vocal warm-ups. How far, so let's say you have a show today, right? Let's say you've done the warm-ups in the morning. So do you have to kind of do them again in the evening if you've gone through the entire day? So is it best, what's the optimal time before the show to warm up? That's another way to question.
Do you want to answer?
I say that mainly because, to be honest, I'm not a person who warms up before I go up. I no, but like for me, like at most, what I'll end up doing is what I find, I guess, my quote-unquote warm-up ritual would be like, I might go over whatever material I might be doing for the night. And I tend to find that, like, if, for me, like, my warm-up period usually tends to be maybe 2 to 3 songs worth. So, I might go over 2 or 3 if I'm doing, like, a 5-6 song set, like a 1-hour set or whatever the case may be. I might go over half the set and just be like, okay, I'm cool. So that's just me. I'm pretty lax when it comes to warm-ups, though I do have my favorites, I guess, when I actually do warm up properly, lip trills going from top to bottom of the range and then maybe going back up, like bottom back up again or something like that, right? Just some like that, right? But I don't typically do it, mainly just because I never really got into the habit of it. And I'll be honest, I'm one of the people I respect the importance of vocal warm-ups, but I honestly am going to be honest, I don't really care for it, personally.
Pretty boring. Yeah. That's why you got to get on that Ken Burton tip, because it's to music. It's so much more fun.
I mean, I might have to go. I might.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna give that a listen because I'm also the kind of person who doesn't warm up. I might have a little smoke and a shot of whiskey, maybe some chocolate, and then go and wing it, which is not healthy at all for so many reasons. But even today, I was like listening to some Roberta Flack and just going through, like just singing along, and then whatever key she's singing in, I'll just like kind of do the thing. But I've never really trained myself in that way, and it's definitely something I want to be getting more into because I think it just unlocks a whole different level of your voice. So I'll definitely be checking out Ken Burton, everybody. We should get sponsored by Ken Burton. Right. Jackson.
Not to totally derail it if we want to keep talking about it, but I was thinking, especially because of the jam, what are your thoughts and experiences about improvising? And that can, in any sense, like, I don't know if you guys have, I know you all are improvisers, so I feel like, what are your thoughts? How do you find words? How do you find melodies? Do you just dive off, or do you have a plan?
If you're standing at this stage, and I know you'll probably hear me at some point go, give me 3 words. And actually, finally, I've been talking about this for months, an inspiration jar. And I'm going to put it at the front because it says words, rhymes, things to sing or rap about to inspire improvisation. Because sometimes you get up there and you're like, I don't know what to sing about. And that's really, it's difficult. And you know, I've written out words and rhymes to go with those words and concepts to go with those words, and then I get up there and it's just gone. So for me, I think the number one thing when it comes to improvisation is just being as present as possible. Sometimes I find, some of you may notice, I love to kneel on the stage. That's something I definitely have to work out. So I have to probably work away from that because it's not very welcoming. But it's because I can be in a safe zone and I'm not thinking about the crowd, I'm not thinking about anyone else. I'm listening to the music and seeing where can I put in, what's the first thing. Sometimes I don't even know what's gonna come out of my mouth until I open my mouth. And that, to me, is sometimes the most exciting and thrilling thing. But it's also really frustrating, too, sometimes, because things will come out not the way I'm expecting, and then I'm like, I remember over COVID, Branko and I went on a walk together, and I just picked his brain about how does it work? How do you do this? How do you just like know what's coming next? Because my brain doesn't work as fast as a lot of MCs and rappers. So for me, I think a big thing I'm learning every time I get up on stage is to give space. And to not feel this incessant need to fill in every single beat. And you can like take that, like it doesn't have to be a 10-word rhyme. It can be 3 words to finish that part of it, if that makes any sense in my brain. But it's all about being present and just kind of being like, okay, this is my first line that came out. Where can I go? What does that mean? How can I find that? If it's not there, okay, I'll give another 6 bars or whatever to the band. That's another thing. Giving space to the band. Listen to the band. The band is the biggest inspiration. And your other person in front of you, at the beginning of being here at the supermarket, I used to always love to go up with Branko because I would listen to what he was giving. And anyone that I go up with, I'm always listening to what they're giving because I thrive with melodies and choruses. Like, that kind of thing, like, what's it called? Hooks. Hooks are my shit. They're my jam. And if I can hear something that somebody else is saying or talking about, I'll take that concept and run with it. And then
for hooks, repeating something, you know, a few times for a few bars, or, you know, giving that space and maybe getting the crowd involved or not. But yeah, the basic number one thing I would say is being present and trusting yourself. And just if you fuck up, 90% of the time, no one can hear you. So no one really cares if you didn't rhyme it perfectly. It's all about just having fun and just kind of seeing where it goes.
So,
Sorry, do you guys want to? Yeah.
I kind of just want to throw a statement on the whole improvisation topic. Improvising, I'm pretty like it's a simple thing. We have something together like. Oh, now you got me on the spot. Oh.
No, you put yourself on the spot, honey.
I got it in my head though. Breathe. We all listen to music, and we all know the songs that we like. We know the lyrics to them. We already have something we're familiar with. So when we're on stage and we sing those songs, we can kind of derail from the lyrics. We can break up how the song goes from first chorus. We can break it up and make it into our own thing. So let's say I'm singing. I sang Blackbird last time I came up on the stage, and I repeated the same verse over, which is not the original. It's a form of improvisation, and it's like from that I can talk about the Blackbird. I can talk about whatever I want to, We all have this experience. We all have music that we like, and we can just derail. And I feel like that's how you learn to improvise your own stuff from stuff that you already know. If that makes sense.
that does indeed. There's a plethora of ways and a multitude of ways that you could go about it, but I'm gonna look at it from two different perspectives. One, because as a vocalist and as an MC. Because as an MC, I do have to think about it slightly differently than I would when I'm singing. As an MC, what I tend to do is I might stay over here and I might think about maybe just the first line of whatever I'm going to say. I might think about my opening line or whatever the case may be, and then I kind of just let it roam from there. Or, depending on how I'm feeling, if the drummer, it really depends on the drummer for me, especially when I'm rapping. Like, if I hear a drummer and I'm like, I am vibing with whatever beat they're throwing down, sometimes I will literally just say fuck it and I'll go up there and I'll just whatever comes to my head. Or, to go off of what Noah was saying, something that I'll do is like, I might think about a hook that I really like, a chorus of a song that I really enjoy, and then I'll go off of that and create a story based off of whatever chorus I was singing and just be like, oh, okay. Like, you know what? Maybe the chorus is, let me just think about this. Like, for example, like, okay, let's say Ready or Not, the by the Fugees, right? Like, maybe I'll think about something like that, and then it's just like, ready or not, here I come, you can't hide, gonna find you, right? And it just be like maybe finding something that you've lost might end up be the story that I come up with out of that, right? Something along the lines of that. As a vocalist, kind of to go off of what Hallea was saying a little bit, there is an ebb and flow to it in the sense of just listening and then kind of pushing back the way. It's like water. You gotta listen when the wave comes your way, and then you just gotta naturally flow it back. So I'm listening to everybody around me. I'm listening to whatever the other vocalist is throwing down, and I might ebb off of that. Or if I'm the one setting the flow, I make it something easy to go off of. It's nothing overly complicated. It's just like, you know what, maybe the subject is just very broad. It's just like, we're here to have a good time. Boom. Done. Right? Something like that. Maybe it's something about love. Okay. Boom. Done. Something like that. You just want to, if you're doing something like that, you have to, one, think about who you're with, and two, also just make it really easy to go off of. Especially if you're coming at it from a vocal standpoint. If you're coming at it from a rap standpoint, it's a little bit different. If you're trying to bounce off of, like, something I like to do is I like to trade bars with either Evo. Branko is somebody else who I like to trade bars with as well, because he's an absolute monster. He's a beast. I love trading off with him. And so don't be afraid to feed off of and trade with some of the people who you happen to be sharing the space with, right? Sometimes that's how friendships are formed. That's how I met Evo. The first time I rapped with him, I was like, who are you? I was like, yo, I've never rapped with you before, but me and you, we're linking up now. That's happening. So friendships can literally be formed right on stage. It literally can be birthed right there. So come, I guess, to wrap it up, come with an open mind and with an open heart and make it easily palpable to whoever you happen to be with. Or if you just happen to vibe on the same wavelength as the person that you're on stage with, then just go with that too. Go with the flow. That's it.
I feel like if you really pay attention to me on stage, like you'll notice a lot of the time I'm not even saying words, or I'm just stringing words together that don't really form true sentences. For me, it's like about getting the vowel sounds out. Like for me, similarly, like the drums I find really inspirational. So for me, it's about cadence, it's about rhythm, and that's what I'm thinking about kind of before I'm thinking about freestyling. Like I would love to get better at it, and that's a skill that I definitely want to hone, but I don't let that stop me from allowing the melodies to flow out. So yeah, just I think thinking about vowels and just making the sound, focusing on the melody. If it's singing that you really want to try, don't get too concerned about like not, I don't know what I'm gonna say, so I don't think I can go up. Just sing vowel sounds. Sing the same word over again. I think when it comes to like trying to freestyle, keeping it simple is the best. Like don't think too broadly. Try and like, maybe sing about your journey to get here, or sing about what you ate today. Try and keep yourself in a wheelhouse so you don't have to like veer off too far to like search for the subject matter. Just like think about one thing and just sing about it. Allow it to carry the melodies out, and after the initial sort of thinking of it falls away and you're singing, you're like, oh, I'm off the ground. Then it just kind of flows out of you, and you just kind of have to trust that, like make it through the first couple rickety steps, the first couple rickety words, and then you're soaring. I guess I hope that's helpful.
Go for it. My vocal improvising is not my strength, so I'll just say it's like the singers here, that all of y'all doing it, it's so inspiring to see. Like just that combination of like the body and melody and lyrics to come in an improvised way is just magic. So it's so cool to see, and I'm still scared to do it. So if anyone's like nervous about that, like.
Well, you improvise on the saxophone. Though.
Yeah. But it's so, at least for me, it's so different. It's like that vulnerability we were talking about, where like I've gotten past that with my own voice and my timbre, but like as soon as there's words and it's improvising, I feel so comfortable on the horn, and then it's like, it's so amazing, like what all you're doing. And then I remember Jackson, one time, like you sang a Bob Dylan song on top of a funk beat, and I was like, who is this man? This is the greatest.
Only Jackson.
Sometimes the slow songs always work over any.
Yeah.
I think it's like every sound of music song.
Yeah.
I was just gonna add that the improvising part of Big Fam Jam, I mean, obviously that's like the reason we're all here. So sometimes also I think people come to the jam and then they realize it's like heavily improvised, and they're like, oh shit, I don't know if I want to do that actually. Oh shit. So like that's also okay, we don't all have to be improvising all the time. But what I was going to say is, for me, I struggle with creating lyrics on the spot as well, and like thinking up stuff to say. So it's often a matter of just what melody feels good in my body in that moment, or something that the keys player or the bass player is doing that I'm like, oh, that feels good. I'm just going to roll with that. And maybe I can just focus on that one thing, and like I can just go with like some weird sounds that feel good coming out of my body right now, and it's like maybe something else comes out of that, and it's like, my soul's alive, my soul's alive, my soul's alive, my soul's alive. And then it's like, well, that feels good. I'm just going to keep saying that. And then literally that's all I will sing on. So I think it's good, keep it simple, just like all of you guys said. I think that's really great.
One thing I have to add to that, last week I was doing some Christmas songs, and they weren't in the right key to the song, whatever. But what I really tried to do was to basically improvise these songs that I knew in a different formula to fit the music that the band was playing. And I think that bleeds into a bigger topic of when it comes to doing cover songs up there, is that, we're an open jam. You can go up there and do whatever the hell you want. But I think a real
strength or something really beneficial to think about when getting up there. If you don't want to improvise, that's fine. Bring up a song. But you cannot get up there and expect the band to sway to what you want, because you have 5 to 7 people up there. And my number one thing is, if you're gonna get up there and sing a song, make the song work with the music. And that's not easy to do. It's not always gonna happen. It's not always gonna be perfect, and that's fine. Like, we're not expecting anyone to get up there and be perfect. We're not expecting anyone to get up there and be like the next big thing. Like, the number one thing is we're hoping that people get up there and have fun and bring something to it that makes them feel confident and alive, and having, bringing themselves forward and doing this thing that's like really scary. Like, we sell this place out almost every week, and that's really terrifying. So if you want to bring up a song, do it. And it isn't always easy to make that song work with what's going up there, but maybe wait for a song that sounds kind of close to the song you want to sing, and then find it in there. And no one's being like, oh, well, that's not how Blackbird goes. It's just like, okay, well, this is my rendition of Blackbird right now, and we're doing it funky. You do what you want up there, but just like also remember that you're up there with 5 to 7 other people who are also doing something terrifying, and it's all trying to be cohesive and just like blend into that.
All right, cool. I just have 2 things to say. First thing, I just want to touch on just what everyone's saying. Definitely, people are improvising at the jam, but just like how that's not the only way to make music, I feel like that's also not the only way to improvise. And I feel like it's also important to remember that improvisation in a way similar to the jam, but just like as a general practice, can be a way to kind of get in touch. I use it as a way to write songs a lot of the time. I'll like improvise and I'll be like, that was kind of cool. Is that a song I know? No, I'll just steal it. And so I think, so I would just say for this jam, for sure, and I think Leo Valvasori said it on the bass class day, is that this is just about making mistakes. Like, this is just about making mistakes, and make a million of them, and we're gonna do this for as ever long it takes for us to all make a million mistakes, and we'll all just grow because of that. So I will say that for this jam, that's what I feel. I will say now that we're going to move on to a little sing-along, just because I feel like we're all beautiful singers here. I already know just by looking at you. Let's first give a round for the panel, these beautiful people. But before we kick them off, I thought we'd just do kind of a rapid-fire question. Just if there's any questions you have about anything related to singing or these people, we'll just move it down, everybody. Just quick questions, quick answers, and we'll try to get through as many as we can, and then we'll do some singing together. So without further ado.
You haven't gone yet.
Sure. For each of you, to run through real quick, what was the single most important move in progressing your singing? Is that going to be something you did every day in practice, or you're a one-off you did? Is there anything that stands out?
Coming to the Fam Jam every Tuesday.
Any more questions? Yeah, great. That's the only way to do it.
I can't promise it's a fast question. Last week was my first time going up, and something that really makes sense but caught me off guard was listening from here versus up there, because everything sounded so different up there, and it was really disorienting to the point where I was like, I don't even know if I'm in the right key. I don't know where I'm going. I was just lost.
Just trust yourself.
That's a very good point.
Don't be afraid to ask questions of the people who happen to be around you, especially if you maybe feel or see that they're more experienced. So, for example, if you're looking at the keyboard player and you're not sure what key you're in, just be like, yeah, what key are you in? There's no problem with doing that.
That's if they know. I don't even know.
Also, ladies and gentlemen, that's Morgan doing the sound. If ever you need to hear yourself on the stage, you just go, hey, Morgan, up, or Morgan down, and he will adjust the levels for you, and he's in the room. And so let's all say hello.
Yeah, or just be, just like that. That's fine too.
A quick thing with that too is also just we're talking about music and singing, and like we are artists on one hand, but it's also remember this is like a skill and a craft that just takes time. You'll get used to like being up there more. It's like anything.
Just do it. There's no substitute for doing it.
So I've been doing
Happy birthday, bud.
yeah, so I just started getting into doing vocals and production. Like my own what I do. When I'm doing like the production for like the processing of vocals, I find that it's very challenging to get like the raw sound of like a mic and vocals sound like good with like instrumentation in production. Like even if you just put like reverb, it still kind of sounds raw. So you have like any tips to like make it sound more polished?
Yeah, I mean, like the first sort of really quick answer to that is like so often when we're tracking vocals, like this is just nuts and bolts. Like when you're tracking, you're listening to it so loud in the mix, and it's just an unrealistic volume, so it's gonna feel unnatural sitting like 10 dB above anything else in the song. So like step one is just like putting it in a decent spot there, and then like I mean it's kind of it's become cheating now because everyone's doing it, but it makes sense. It's just like how much compression can you fit before this thing is just maxing out, because that's like every song you've heard made in the last 10 years is so much. So it's like, yeah, is there any like just kind of sitting in the mix or just feeling polished is like, what are you sort of wondering?
Yeah, I guess it's like the sitting in the mix part of it.
Yeah.
It just sounds like a mic recording over
Yeah, I dig. I mean, for that, there's so much like I mean, Hallea brought up YouTube already about just like the advice on vocal chains. Like, there's just like 100 people giving you like the secret sauce and everything about just like, and you can get like within different budgets of what you're running, but also just making sure that like, you know, that the mic's good, that the performance feels right. So much, and we forget in recording, like in production, we obsess over like all these technicalities when like just really getting in a good performance on a good mic, like you forget how important that is. And to like, because we're trying to like make up for a multitude of sins through just like sprinkles on top, when just like if the nuts and bolts are just like together. But yeah, we'll sit down and talk about this more later.
I think I have a question for Seyblu. Do you have any sense for like adding some like juicy body to your falsetto?
You go, Ray. You got Bob. My falsetto. It's full.
I guess two things then, if you want to throw a little body in the falsetto. I guess three: air, confidence, and a little prayer. That's it. That's all three. The three of them things right there. Just going, you know, bolster up your falsetto with a little bit more, because what I've come to find as of recent, for me personally, is instead of giving myself more air than necessary, I give myself just as much as I think I would need, and there's not a problem with having a little bit more air to kind of back it up. Just make sure you're not pushing it too much into what you're doing, if that makes any sense, so that way your falsetto's not coming off as breathy, but like having a little extra supply, I guess, in the back tank is what I would say. So just that, and also don't be afraid to push it out a little bit more volume wise, right? Because you're not trying to do like a Maxwell type thing where you're singing in your falsetto super quietly. You're not doing like a This Woman Is Work type thing. You just push it out. Let it be there. Let it be in the forefront. And that's
do that too.
I mean, you can do that too. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I love me some Maxwell. I ain't saying that. This is not a Maxwell slander. I love me some Maxwell. Maxwell is a vocal saint. I'm just saying. You're not always trying to do the quiet thing, right? It's just, you know, let it be more prevalent. Don't be afraid to put a little bit more volume into it. That's what
Yeah, sorry. You've taught us how to do all like the mental stuff, how to keep your voice healthy. We haven't really learned like technique on like how you're supposed to make that, like make the air come out, how you're supposed to shape your mouth and stuff.
You should have come here last week.
I have
It's okay, we'll do it again. That's fine. And also YouTube.
Yes.
More
I
YouTube.
tried, but I don't know how to feel when I'm doing
Yeah.
it. That's the thing. The YouTube can only do so much.
I will say one thing that everyone has touched on, but I'm going to touch on it again. That's the theme of the night. And it's breathing. Like what he said. At school we had to learn a trumpet a little bit. And one thing I learned there is like, if this is your tank of air, the amount of air you have to produce sound, all the air at the bottom is going to be like flat and damaging for your throat. And so if you just stay at the like first half of your tank of air at all times, all of a sudden you have more power, all of a sudden you have more range, all of a sudden you have more control, and then everything else starts lining up. So I would say number one for me is breathing. We've all touched on it, but that's if you could do any technical exercise, breathe and breathe while you sing. And just practice breathing.
I was just gonna add something to that. Just that if you're not sure how it's supposed to feel, it can really help to see somebody who's a vocal trainer, like somebody who knows the technique and knows how to explain it, to just sit with you on like even 1 hour-long session, because they can tell you where the placement is and where it's supposed to come out of and where it's supposed to come from, because that can be really difficult to figure out on your own. And there are some really great affordable teachers in the city. So if you need any recommendations, I know I have some names and I'm sure everyone here can probably suggest some names. Yeah.
I mean, I guess one other thing would be to like figure out who are the artists that it feels comfortable singing along to. Like artists in my range, like altos, Toni Braxton, Anita Baker, you know, people that I'm singing their songs and I don't have to like contort and alter. It doesn't feel like I'm straining. I think it's just really important to like your body is actually a good metric, and you probably have like a fair understanding of what's hurting or like what it shouldn't feel like. So I would say really use your intuition and like know that, you know, if you're feeling discomfort, that you're probably not in the right range or shouldn't be doing that. Just, I think, yeah, pay attention to what music you enjoy singing, and yeah, do that.
I think there's one last question and then we're going to get to the sing-along.
2 things. First and foremost, a really, really great indication. If it hurts, stop it. If it hurts, stop. And that's like one of the biggest points of it. Because continuously like pushing on anything that's not supposed to be pushed on will leave your vocal damage. And nobody wants that. Second thing, what you were saying about like those first like unsure words you're improvising, that's so real. So I think like a thing I really want to like just piggyback on is that's really real, man. Like the first couple of words are going to feel like super nerve-wracking and you don't know what's happening and you're kind of shaking, but just keep trusting it, man. Just keep trusting, let it flow out eventually. Yeah.
Also, don't hesitate to scat.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like,
that's a good one.
Where did he go? Daniel and I, when I get up there, I'm like, let's scat, you know? Because I'm like, I don't have any words anymore. Hi, honey. You're going to do great at the halftime show. I'm so excited for it. Yeah. Mackie, everybody. Oh, my God. But, yeah, just make shit up. Scat. I don't know how to scat. I was scatting with you. You know, no one, like, I'm going to just press this one more time before we go into it. No one is expecting you to be perfect. No one is expecting you to be a professional, incredible, amazing, jaw-dropping singer that hits everything and has every single freaking word. No one. Not a single person.
But
so just
also,
let your self-play.
I think I'd add on to that, like, no matter what performance you give, like, if you go up at all and it's your first time, why don't you act like that? You know, just like, that was the shit. And I think maybe I might be the best singer in this room. Like, whatever you need to do.
I'm not saying not to, like, feel that way.
Mojo, yeah.
But just a reassurance that, like, no one is going to be... And if they're judging you, that's their problem. Like, no one is being like, okay, well, this is the X Factor. Like, it's not that, you know? Go up there and be the shit. Everyone wants you to be the shit up there. And, like, the more you own your mistakes, or mistakes, they're not they're learning opportunities. The more you own everything you do up there, the more people are going to support you. Like I've seen people get up there and just like kind of just not know what to do, but they like have fun with it. And they're just like doing the craziest thing ever. And everyone's like, yeah, you know? Totally off key, have no words. They're just like not really sure what to do, but they're having fun. That is the number one thing. And everyone is gonna be like, rock on, you know? Because everyone here, like that is the most beautiful thing about this community, is that the Fam Jam is somewhere where you can be authentically yourself. And everyone, at least the people who matter, the people who we should, you know, we shouldn't, you know, if you're someone that, oh, this is not coming out as I want it to. Everyone here is here to support you. And the people who aren't don't matter, you know? We just want you all to have fun. That's the number one thing that grew this thing into what it is today. And, you know, it's nerve-wracking. It's not always gonna be pretty, but it's somewhere where you can come up here and say, you know what, this week I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna see what happens. And I know that I have people around me who are gonna support me, because that's what we're here for.
I think one like final note is kind of like ties back to the first thing we were all saying about like the voice being so exposing, and it sort of is this like external representation of what's inside of us. And I think for that reason, like we should all try singing, because it puts you in contact with this part of yourself that is expressing. And like the more in tune we all become with our own voices, like the more that carries into the other aspects of your world. And just it's so empowering to speak, and singing does this amazing thing where it puts you in touch with your voice. And so I think, everyone just give it a try. The stronger your voice is, like the stronger we all are. Like, you know, when I shine, you shine. Like it's we all win by like using our voices together and toning our voices together, and, you know, learning what that feels like to express. So that's.
Well, that's a perfect transition. One thing I say is we all learned to sing from the birds, and if you listen to the birds, they're all singing. So, and you don't listen to the birds, you're like, wow, that one bird's really good. You know, it's like just they're all singing this, and the whole thing is a song. So they are one voice, and we are one voice. And every time we are in a room where they're singing, we are one voice. We are a group of people, and that's what joins us. So, and we need everybody, and the people who. That you can support your neighbor, you can follow your neighbor, you can do anything you like, because we're in a group and we are together. So can I just get everybody to just hum this note? Then we're gonna go ma. All right, do the same note and do the same thing. Last time, same note. All right, welcome. We're going to do a little bit of a sing-along, if that's okay with you. You are all beautiful, and this is what... I was at a family gathering, and it was like a big... all my dad's cousins, there's like 100 people in the room. And it was kind of awkward, and we haven't seen each other in a long time.